Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be working on minimum remove to make valid parentheses. And in this one you're given a string of parentheses and lowercase letters, and you want to remove the minimum number of parentheses in any position so that the resulting parentheses string is valid, and return any valid string. Formally, a parentheses is valid if it's the empty string or just like a basic parentheses. So in this case, this is invalid starting out because there's two opens and then two closed and then a closed. So you can just get rid of one of the closed. So like this is a solution. And yeah, you can get that, or you can get rid of this one. Doesn't matter which one, either one's fine. So essentially the main thing to recognize here is the letters don't really matter at all. All you really care about is the parentheses. The same thing here. Let's actually just take a look at the parentheses for this example. So we have open, open, closed, closed, closed. Well, what's the easiest way you can make it valid? You just get rid of one of the closed, right? Doesn't matter which one, you can get rid of the first one, second one, or third one. And so for the second example, once again, the letters don't really matter. It's just the parentheses. So we have a closed, open, closed. So how do we make this valid? Well, just getting rid of that. And in the last example, we have open, open, closed, closed. So the way to get rid of that is you actually have to get rid of the whole thing. So I guess it's actually closed, closed, open, open. So the main thing for this problem is, what are the rules for valid parentheses? So rules for valid parentheses, and open, or a closed parenthesis, right? Closed parenthesis can't come before an open parenthesis. Right, so that's rule number one. So something like this is never going to be valid, right? In order to have a closed parenthesis, you have to have a matching open first. So if we have like 3 open parentheses, then we can have 3 closed and so on, but we can't like have another closed before the open. So that's one. And the second rule is number of open has to equal number of closed. And this is pretty much it. So like if you do like valid parenthesis, which is like an easy problem, this is basically what you're checking for. You're just checking like, okay, anytime I have a closed parenthesis, I got to make sure I have enough open, and this. So that's kind of the rule. The way we're going to check this first rule is whenever we put in a closed parenthesis, we're just going to maintain a total of open and closed parentheses. So what I mean by that is like, let's say we have something like this. So what we can do is we can say open is worth 1 point and closed is worth -1 point, right? So whenever there's a match, this would just be 0. And then you can only put in a closed if the total is greater than 0, right? So total is greater than 0. Because if the total is greater than 0, that means there's more open than closed. So if we have more open than closed, for example, and it doesn't really matter which way, but something like this, then you can put in a closed. It can be here. It can be anywhere, right? Doesn't matter. Then you can put in a closed. So that's kind of the idea. That's rule number one. Pretty easy. Like whenever we get to so essentially we're going to try to do this in like a 2-pass, and this total is greater than 0 is going to be pretty easy. So let's say we have these 5 parentheses we're trying to put down in this example. What's going to happen here is like as we put down the open, we're going to check, okay, let's put down an open, let's increase the total. Let's put down an open, increase the total. Then when we put in closed, it's our total greater than 0? Yes, it is. So we can put this one in. Is our total in 0? Yes. Put this one in. And now our total is 0, so we can't put this one in. So instead of deleting, we're just going to only put in parentheses that would be valid. So that's the first one. Now the second one is they have to be equal. And the way to do that in like a 1 or 2 pass is we actually have to know how many of each parentheses there are. So we're going to loop through this and actually get a count. We only actually care about how many closed parentheses there are. And the idea of that is basically going to be like, let's go through this example. Like we're going to loop through this. We're going to say, okay, there's 3 closed total. And as we're putting in parentheses, we can decrement the number of closed. And before we put in an open, we're going to check how many current open parentheses are there and how many closed parentheses are left. So for example, let's say we have something like this and we're trying to put in another one. Before we put in the other one, we're going to say, okay, if we put in this one, then we'll have 2 open. So there better be 2 closed ones somewhere left in the word. And because we kept track of the count ahead of time, we would know that. So let's walk through this example. So first, to put in an open parenthesis, like I said, we're going to have these 2 rules, right? So we're going to have to make sure that So total has to be greater than 0 to put in a closed. And the second rule is number of total open parens, like current open parens. So current open parens has to be less than or equal to closed parens left. And what I mean by that is, if we have an open and closed parens, that doesn't mean current open. Current open means current open and unmatched with a closed. So let's walk through this now, this whole solution. So first we try to put in an open parenthesis. So to put in an open parenthesis, we have to make sure that the number of closed parentheses left is greater than or equal to the number of open parentheses once we put this one in. We don't have any open ones yet. So if we put this in this one, we will have 1, and we have 3 closed parentheses left, so this is fine. And then we will increment our total. So our total will be 1. Then we go to our next parenthesis. And basically, anytime we get to a letter, we can just put in the letter. Like, letters don't matter at all. Like, anytime you get to a letter, you just put that into your result string. And we can just use a like an array to do that. So, yeah, so we get to this second open parenthesis. So if we get to second open parenthesis, we're going to check, okay, so if we have this one, then we'll have 2 current open parentheses, right? Because it's just based on our total. Whatever our total is the number of open parentheses. So if our total is 1 and we add another one and we have 2, that means we have 2 open parentheses and so on. So if we have 2 open parentheses, do we have 2 left? Yes, we do. We have 3 left. So this is fine. So our total now is 2. Then we run into a closed parenthesis. So to put in a closed parenthesis, our total has to be greater than 0. So that's fine. So we can put it in. And then decrease our total to 1. And we would decrease this closed left to, so this is closed left, not closed. So closed left here would be 2. Then we get to this next closed parenthesis. And we say, is our total greater than 0? Yes, it is. So we can put it in and decrement our total. So decrement our total, put it in. Then for the last one, our total is 0, so we can't put it in. So this is like our parentheses. So instead of figuring out what to delete, we're just going to figure out, we'll try to put in everything we can that's valid. And that's going to be the idea. And then the letters will just go like in the same order, so that part's pretty easy. So let's walk through example 2. So we first go through to see how many closed parentheses there are total. In this case, there are 2, right? So 1, 2. So we try to put in a closed. We check, is total greater than 0? No, it's not, so we can't put in the closed. But now there's only 1 closed parenthesis left. Then we try to put in an open. In order to put in an open, there has to be at least 1 closed, because this will be 1 open current, and there is, so we can put it in. So our total will be 1. And then we try to put in a closed. In order to put in a closed, we have to have a total of greater than 0. We put it in. And that's the solution here. And then our total is 0, and our closed left is 0. So let's walk through the last one, because these are pretty quick. So here we have 2 closed. So 2 closed, and our total starts off as 0 as always. So we try to put in a closed. To put in a closed, we have to have a total of greater than 0. We don't have it, so we can't put it in. Now we have 1 closed left. And then we can't put in the second one either, because our total is not greater than 0. So we have 0 closed left. Then we come to an open. So to put in an open, there has to be at least as many closed parens left to put in as we have currently open parens. If we put in this one, we'll have 1 open paren. So we have to have 1 closed paren left. We don't have any, so we can't put it in. And same thing for this one. We can't put it in because we don't have any closed left. So we'll just have the empty string. That's kind of the idea. You just need these 2 constraints. Well, we're going to do a 1 pass first to get the number of closed parens left so we can keep track. And then the second parameter is pretty easy. You can only put in a closed paren as long as your number of open parens is greater than the number of closed parens, which we can just check with this total by making an open paren 1 and a closed paren -1. So let's code that in Java. So we're going to have an integer for the number of closed parens, and we're going to loop through our string and get all those beforehand. So pretty easy stuff there. And yeah, this is like somewhere in the middle of is valid parens and then actually reordering parens to make it valid. This is easier than that. So if the character is closed, we will just increment closed. Okay, so for our second pass, remember we need a couple variables. So we're going to use a string builder to build our word, which is just like an array, same thing, like a character array that's mutable. So we're going to use a string builder. In Java, in another language, you can just use like an array of characters or whatever. I think you can use a character list or something instead here too, which would be fine. So we're going to have an integer for our total. And it's basically all we need, right? So those two things. So we have our actual word that we're building and an integer for the total. And we don't really care how many open we have. We just only care about how many closed we have and our total. Our total will tell us how many open we have, because our total should always be positive. We can never put in a negative paren if there is no. We can never put in a closed paren if there is no open paren before then. Okay, so now we just loop again. So we're gonna copy this and change it a little. Okay, so if it's closed. Remember, we can only put in a closed paren if our total is greater than 0. So first of all, we're going to decrement the number of closed parens left no matter what, even if we don't put it in. Then we say if total is greater than 0, we can put this in. So result append closed paren, and we decrement total because we actually put this in. Okay, now we have similar logic. Well, it's not going to be similar, but we need the logic for the open paren. So we can only put in an open paren if the number of current open parens is less than or equal to the number of closed parens left. So that's basically if total plus 1, because total will always be positive or 0. So the total is the number of open parens pretty much. So let's say if total is 2 and we add this paren, then we'll have 3 open parens. So if total plus 1 is less than or equal to the number of closed parens left, then we can put this in because we will have matching closed parens. Otherwise, we can't put it in because we won't have matching closed parens. So we'll put it in and we increment the total. And the final case is just, so this will be like else if, and the final case is just if it's a regular character. If it's a regular character, we can always put it in. We don't really care about that. All we care about is parentheses. And then finally, once we're done with this loop, we can just return the string that we built with our string builder. So the string builder in Java just has a toString method. So it's literally the same as doing like in Python doing this, where you have your array, you join your result, same thing. So yeah, so we can do that. Let me just make sure these are correct. I think I'm missing some kind of thing here for some reason, right? Yeah, it's not lined up and stuff, but whatever. It's fine. Whoops. Okay, there you go. I think it's good now. Okay, so now we just return result to string, which is just builds the word. Return. All right. And there we go. So let's talk about time and space here. So time is obviously of n because we just did a 2 pass through the word. And then space, I'm going to say is of 1 because we just built the result. Like we didn't really store any other output. We just built the result, right? And you need to return a result, so you have to like build a result. But we didn't use anything other than our one string builder that we had. So I'm going to say it's of 1. Yeah, and that's going to be all for this one. So definitely not too bad as long as you just recognize the rules for parentheses. Same kind of thing for valid parens. Same kind of thing for rearrange parens. Pretty similar kind of ideas. Just understand like what you need to put into close, what you need to put in open, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, it's going to be all for this one. And if you have any questions, as always, write in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.